excuse me, that comes up is an excess of protein in the diet. And this is where the obesity comes in, and the high acidity levels with people. And that's why you had asked me earlier, before we came here, about what would be like the best thing that someone could eat, right? And I was saying greens, right?
Yes.
And greens in general have so many positive aspects. They're super alkaline, which means they're really good for pH balance. They have chlorophyll in them. There's a ton of vitamins and nutrients and minerals. There's tons of fibers in them, and again, the big thing was how can people start eating these greens, right?
How to transit a little bit, because to me,
Yeah.
I've seen many people
It can be a tough
transiting
sell.
slowly,
Yeah.
adding,
Yeah.
starting, let's say, breakfast raw,
Right.
and then adding half a plate raw, half a plate cooked.
Yeah.
That's already 75%
Right.
of your diet.
And that's it, gradual.
But the
You have
thing
to be
is,
subtle.
exactly,
Yeah.
because you have to develop the taste. I
Exactly.
don't want to eat grass.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right away.
Exactly.
Right.
I'm not a cow. But can you tell us about superfoods?
Yeah.
We know what is Superman.
Yeah.
What is superfood?
Well, superfoods, the term superfood, unfortunately, has been thrown around and has now become a marketing scheme in a sense. It's been commercialized, and everyone throws the word superfood, just like all natural, on everything, because people see it and they go, oh, I'll buy this, it's a superfood, or it's all natural, right? So the basic definition of a superfood is it's a food that's rich in phytonutrients. Okay, phytonutrients are chemical compounds or plant-based nutrients that are very potent. Now, I believe in a more detailed version of what a superfood is. A superfood has a lot of components to it. It has vitamins and nutrients, it has minerals, trace minerals, has excess amounts of fibers, fatty acids, it has a multitude of bioflavonoids, flavonoids. There's a ton of different components that really establish a superfood to be what it is. But more importantly, a superfood is a food as well as a medicine. So we've talked about food as a medicine. A superfood
For example, can you give us an example of superfood? I'm going shopping.
Here's an example
Where
right
do
here.
I buy superfood?
A superfood would be the meat that we're going to use for our tostada today is made of walnuts. So walnuts are an underrated, in your cabinet, you didn't even know it, superfood on the shelf. They're super high in omega fats, which are what stimulate brain growth, and they're actually a key component in brain growth in children as well. And these walnuts are a key component, like I said, brain food. So they're amazing and simple and are an amazing meat substitute in the raw food diet. So another example.
But how do they taste? I want a real meat.
But how does meat taste if it's not flavored properly?
I haven't eaten for years.
Okay.
I'm trying
well,
to
it just
role
tastes,
play.
It tastes bland. It tastes like plain. So what you learn with raw food diet is anything, it's all about the seasonings, whatever you eat. So taco meat that's made of meat tastes like taco meat because of the cumin, because of the coriander, because of the chili powder, because of a little bit of that cayenne.
And you use those
mesquite.
same?
With my recipes, I was focused on, if I want to make these taste similar to sell people on eating this food, we need to really stay core to the
Original.
spices, the original flavors for something. When I make a lasagna, I stay as close to the true recipe as possible so it really tastes like a lasagna. And I just supplement the elements in the dish with something that's alive and living.
So would you like to show us a little bit?
I would.
What do we have
Let's-
here?
This is all the elements that will make a raw tostada for us today. So, and I know you've been very excited about this. So we have, there are two types of meat that I brought. Now, this one right here is a raw meat. This is a raw walnut meat that hasn't been dehydrated. Okay, this meat is kind of soft. Some people like it either way. I like it for.
juicy?
Yeah, it's very. This is more supple and juicy. This is the dehydrated version of this, which actually lasts longer. It lasts up to 3 weeks, and we have a very humid climate here in Hawaii, so when you dehydrate something, it will naturally hydrate itself a little bit, so it actually softens after a couple days from here. This is freshly dehydrated.
And how did you make it?
So what I did was I took walnuts in a food processor and I pulsed them. I put it on pulse and I add sea salt and I add pepper and I add some cayenne and I add cumin, which is a key ingredient for Mexican food is the cumin. And so when I start assembling this, now I've kind of skipped past what this
Exactly.
is, which this is a raw tostada. So
How do you make raw tostada?
raw tostadas are really neat. I stay as true as possible to the core. A lot of crackers and like taco shells and the tostada shells, I use flax seeds. Flax seeds are a power player in raw food diet. They're roughage, they're good roughage, so they clean out the digestive system. They're really good for the digestion. They're full of omegas, they're full of vitamins and nutrients, and I take corn and I take these flax seeds and I blend them up.
Raw corn?
Yeah,
So
raw organic corn kernels, yep.
Take it
You can
off.
even get frozen raw organic corn kernels, and they're completely raw still, and you just thaw them out and you can use those as well.
So you process that with flax seeds?
With flax seeds, yep, and then we use an assortment of seasonings, and you dehydrate them on a shelf, and you get a crisp, light, airy tostada just like
How long
this.
it takes to make those shells?
It takes
I
about...
don't have time. Life
Yeah,
is
exactly,
hard.
exactly.
I know
And
you
that's
have a
a-
wife and 2 children,
Right.
babies.
I do,
That
and
means-
I'm able to make this for myself through the week. So
Yes.
the neat thing to think about with raw food, and this is also covered in the first couple chapters of the book, is when you're making food like this, you want to make a supply for yourself. These last up to 3 weeks, so I'll make a batch and it'll last 3 weeks, and
How long it takes you to prepare?
it takes about 45 minutes for me to make this and then spread them on sheets, and it takes about a day to dehydrate, some 8 to 12 hours to dehydrate.
And you need to have a dehydrator?
You need to
or-
have a dehydrator, yes. And so when you dehydrate these, they pop right off and you put them in a sealed container, and I have 3 weeks worth of tostada shells. So 4 to 5 days before I'm out of my supply, I'll start my next batch. And as I finish this batch, I have a fresh batch coming out of the dehydrator. So it's really about timing and coming up with a schedule for yourself. And again, this wasn't covered for me in my studies in learning raw food. So I had to incorporate this, and I developed a schedule for your average person to be able to incorporate this raw food schedule and make life easier as you're incorporating the raw food. So we're going to take an avocado now.
So speaking of avocado
Yeah.
and mandala
Yeah.
and secret geometry,
Yes.
as we look at the avocado,
Yeah.
the color,
Yeah.
the way avocado is structured, how would you, so to
Well,
say,
as you see how I'm actually going to make a mandala somewhat from this. If you've ever seen mandalas, if you haven't seen them, they're a beautiful sacred geometry circular object that have a multitude of different designs kind of
Something like a
popping out from
kaleidoscope?
them. Exactly. Exactly. So now I'm layering in colors and I'm layering in flavors and creating somewhat of a mandala out of this food. And it becomes very evident, like the raw pizzas that I make, which I also make from the flax seeds as well, and the corn. I make a Sicilian thin crust pizza. I also use and really incorporate the concept of a mandala. So we just added some spicy arugula on top of our fresh salsa, and we have ourselves a raw tostada. Beautiful, beautiful.
so you have a shell.
I have a shell.
On the top of a shell is fresh, juicy walnut meat.
Yes.
On the top of it is dried meat.
No, I actually only made one with wet. I brought both with me, but I want you to try the wet one. So this is the soft, supple, wet one. I'll use the dried one for various things like pizzas, or if I make a wrap.
Or a sparkle over the salad.
Exactly. You can sprinkle it over a salad, or I make a plate of raw nachos, which is phenomenal. And the nachos, I like to use the dried meat as well.
So this can be eaten as a snack.
This could be a snack. You could, I mean, I can eat at least a couple of these. What's interesting about raw food is it may look small, but because the nutrition is so dense,
very fulfilling.
it fills you up. Yeah.
I remember eating one piece like this of raw pizza.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I want to buy a whole pizza.
Yeah.
And I got one piece, and
Yeah.
it was so rich.
Yeah.
Just delicious.
Yeah, a
beautiful.
lot of people they'll be able to eat half of something, and that's it. You know, that's all they can make. So.